Nearly every Minnesotan would be affected by cuts just approved by members of the House at the state capitol this week. The nearly billion-dollar measure narrowly passed 68 to 63. Republicans say it's the first of many big proposed cuts to come. Governor Mark Dayton has said he's against the move. This is how this round breaks down. There would be less disaster aid for businesses and floods after tornadoes, and state employees would have a pay freeze. Prisoners would get less toilet paper and clothing while locked up. Renters would get smaller rent credits, and job search grants and tuition reimbursements for veterans would be put in jeopardy. The lawmakers are trying to deal with a multi-billion-dollar shortfall. Now, the Senate is expected to take up these cuts in a vote this week. Joining us to talk about that is Republican Senator Geoff Michel from Edina. Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it. You know, we talked about some of these things, and I think many people would say, all right, prisoners, less toilet paper, no problem. But one of the things that the House talked about or passed was a $487 million cut to local governments, and that really is going to affect a lot of people down the road. Do you think the Senate is on board with that?
I do think the Senate will pass something very similar to the House, and we'll do it this coming week. I would frame it this way, Esme. 80% of this bill, 80% of these cuts, have actually been agreed to in the past 6 months in a bipartisan way. This goes back to the Governor Pawlenty days. So what we wanted to do is take a first cut at the state budget deficit. We're spending more money. We're promising to spend more money than we can. And so we need to dial that back, and we thought this was a responsible first step. So this would take our projected deficit down from about $6 billion to roughly $5 billion. Most local governments, prisoners, and others that you cited are already living within these cuts. These were made last year. So this just extends those cuts into the next budget period, and that's the responsible thing to do.
You know, Governor Dayton has not said if he's going to veto this. He's indicated that he is not happy with this measure that was passed by the House. Let me ask you, is there any way the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate, would support any of his desire to increase taxes in any form, especially on wealthier Minnesotans?
No.
Well, that's an easy answer to understand. I appreciate that. Absolutely not. You're saying no tax increases at all.
We want to be clear. We need to live within our means. State government is actually going to take in, even in a tough economy, we're going to take in $32 billion. That's about a 5% increase just in revenue. So we're taking in more money in the midst of a recession, but spending and some of these automatic spending increases that are built into the last budget, those are going up 10, 20, some programs even 30%. That's what we need to work on. That's what we need to work on with the governor. I think Governor Dayton, when he proposes a budget, will absolutely have a lot of spending cuts. That's just the right thing to do. Minnesota families, Minnesota businesses, I bet even Minnesota television stations have had to tighten their belts, dial back their spending, and we need to do that at the government level too. So we wanted to take a first swing at it this week with this billion-dollar package, and then going forward we need some reform, how we deliver government services, and then the other word that we want to introduce into this discussion is growth. We need to grow this economy, Esme. If we don't grow this economy, we'll be back here year after year talking about deficits.
All right, and we were talking in the break. You expect all the Republicans to toe the line in the Senate and not vote against any measures.
I wouldn't call it towing the line. I would say we'll take a
towing the party line.
We'll take a strong stand to rein in spending. We want to rein in spending.
But you're not predicting any defections. There were 4 defections in the House.
I would be surprised if Senator Roebling, who's our finance chair, she'll bring forward a package that unites us, and I would even hope to get some bipartisan support.
All right. Well, Senator Geoff Michel from Edina, thank you so much for coming in. We certainly appreciate it.
Thanks, Esme.
All right.